Countdown to Eternity starts now.
Well, hello, my dear brothers and sisters. I want to welcome you to another episode of Countdown to Eternity. And I am super excited because, of course, I am with Tom Hughes. And I cannot think of a better time to be recording than on a Sunday. By the way, this is interesting. This is Sunday afternoon we're recording. Normally we record Monday for a release on Wednesday, but because I'm doing a video with PragerU and we've got all kinds of things going on, Tommy's got a funeral, we're recording on Sunday. And howbeit, we hear on today, Sunday, that Raisi, okay, this is very important. Ebrahim Raisi was actually on a helicopter that crashed and is presumed to be dead. Now, we don't know if that's true. We can't really confirm that. But that would have some major geopolitical implications if he is dead. Then the other issue that becomes really, really important is the second person that was on that helicopter. By the way, there were 4 very important people on that helicopter. But the second person that was on that helicopter of particular interest to us, right, is the foreign minister of Iran. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, it's Hossein Amir-Abdollahian. And Abdollahian is a very critical person because he's not only the foreign minister, but he is one of the highest, if not the highest ranking member of the IRGC. And he's the one that actually spoke at the UN Security Council where they had the hearing on making Palestine a state unilaterally. He is an evil man. And so if they are dead, besides the fact that they are burning in hot hell, right? There are some big issues that this could potentially bring. If that is the case, is it an accident?
Yeah.
The judgment of God, or is this the judgment of Israel?
Yeah. Well, I mean, God works through people.
Yeah, well, that's
yeah.
undoubtedly.
So even if this has come from Israel, obviously, like you mentioned, we're recording this on Sunday, so more information is going to come out. However, like many of these, nobody ever seems to really know exactly what happened. Remember that bomb in Lebanon a few years back? That massive fertilizer plant?
Oh, yeah. The video on that was crazy, by the way, man. The shockwave that oh, yeah, that was very suspicious.
It looked like a nuclear explosion too.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of these things, they're covert. Nobody ever really admits to exactly who's behind it or what's going on. But we look at this one, the implications are rather enormous. If Israel indeed did this, they sent a message to Iran that we're going to hit you any way we can, any way we want to, which is just about any way that they can think of. And so we will hit you any way we want to in a time when you do not expect, and we will take out the people that we want to take out, the people that you are trying to protect the most. And we can hit you anywhere in the world. I mean, we saw that. Remember that hotel incident? It was a few years back. I think it was either Saudi Arabia or Egypt. You see the Masada?
Was it in Qatar? It was in Qatar, actually.
That's right. The guys with the tennis rackets.
Yeah.
Remember that? We will go in. So, you look at these things, Israel has sent some very clear messages, and they've been sending them since October 7th. They have been for a long time. And so you look at something like this. Well, this is significant for a number of reasons. James, I'm going to throw out something else to you, too, because this is kind of, I mean, you and I have speculated about this probably at least 10 years now. I don't think we've ever done it on camera, though. Okay. When you look at Ezekiel 38 war, you probably have mentioned it, I've mentioned it, but neither of us together. Look at Ezekiel 38 war. You have a couple of different dynamics. When you have the battle of Gog-Magog with Persia that comes, Turkey, all of the different nations, they descend like a cloud, but they also, you read, well, there's horses and bucklers. There's a ground war, a ground offensive. Does something happen so significant to Iran that they're unable to actually fire their missiles at Israel? Is the coming like a cloud? Is that drones coming from a Russian thing or something like that out of Syria? And is the whole ground invasion? I just have always found it fascinating, as I know you have, because you have these different things. Why horse and buckler? We know the mountainous terrain. There's certain things that make more sense for some ground invasions. But you start looking at Israel and the capabilities that they have for the destruction of Iran when the Joe Biden, Mr. Ice Cream Man administration is saying, we aren't giving you any weapons. Look at what you're doing to Rafah. The line numbers of the UN, I know you dealt with that over the last week. How the UN finally had to come clean and say, well, maybe there are a lot less women and children that died than we first said. You know, the lies that are out there are unbelievable. But Israel is definitely the smaller in number, but the greater in power. And God is on their side. Whether or not any of our anti-Semitic people who hate us so much want to admit it, there's a reason why Israel still exists. And there's a reason why they will always exist. Even though they are smaller in number, they are mightier because God is with them. And you look at what are they going to do to Iran. And they sent an incredibly significant message if indeed Israel has done this.
Yeah, look, make no mistake about it. Look, I want to make myself very, very clear. We are undoubtedly talking about something like this. Look, we've talked about this. This is something that we have not talked about online, and you're right. But with the advent of this significant amount of drones that they've been launching towards Israel, this has been known as the weak point of Israel, because the Iron Dome system, although it has been tuned to target many of these drones, what a lot of people are not recognizing is that Israel in and of itself is developing technology to disable these drones at the level of something like a directed EMP or something with jamming radio frequency, that kind of a thing. And by the way, understand this. These drones operate with IMUs. These drones operate with the same type of tools that a typical drone that you might buy from DJI or something like that operate under. And don't discount the military value that exists with the type of infrastructure that surrounds these tools. So if Israel ends up deploying something like that so significantly that the base of what they call ICBMs are destroyed, and Iran no longer has the ability to be able to launch a lot of these types of tools, with the discussion of the nuclear weapons that Iran has, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. I dealt with this yesterday, by the way, or the day before yesterday. There is a video that just got released of one of the leaders of Iran, one of the lawmakers, who says, we have the capability of making nuclear weapons and we can do it in 48 hours. So what the way that Israel's going to deal with this, the way anybody's going to deal with this, if they're concerned about that fact, is they're going to deal with the tool that actually transports it. So they're going to deal with the rockets, which leaves them with the type of thing that they could only revert to. And that, of course, is going to be these drones, right? Well, guess what? You can effectively eliminate the effectiveness of a drone if you utilize directed EMPs or radio frequency jammers, or destroy the IMUs that are on board of these things, which, by the way, that's proven technology. Israel's done that before. The last time Israel did that is the very story that got me kicked off of Facebook, right? And that's when the IDF successfully defended a major attack, a drone attack, against Israel's position off the coast of the Mediterranean when they were drilling oil that was eventually given to Lebanon, by the way, but which, by the way, was taken back by Netanyahu, which was a very smart move. But we know that Israel has a capability of doing this, and if this becomes a widespread issue, then we also know that we could see a ground offensive, especially with the discussion of the drying up the Euphrates, especially with the discussion that we're beginning to see right now with Iran and Iraq actually spending a lot more time talking with one another. And especially with the tension that's beginning to exist with the United States of America and their only friends in Iraq, which are the Kurds to the north. And when you begin to see all of those things taking place, on top of the fact that the prime minister of Iran is bragging about building a city in between the Tigris and the Euphrates, which happens to be Babylon, which happens to be Revelation 17 and 18, then imagine where we're going with this. And if Iran becomes a massive part of this, which they would, it would be a significant thing, because think about this, right? If Babylon, the city, is going to be reconstituted, right? Which Babylon has not been destroyed like Jeremiah says it's going to be destroyed, right? We haven't seen that happen yet. If Babylon gets reconstituted or repatriated, like I think the Bible says is going to happen, then you have to, in order to be able to create a gateway into the shoreline of the Mediterranean to create the traders that we learn about, you have to actually dig out a portion of the land that connects to the Euphrates to bring this area from happening. The only two people that can make that happen is a collective and a very, very cooperative effort being made by Iran and Kuwait. And if they both can do that, then guess who wins as a result of it? Iraq does, because of the building of their city. And by the way, Saudi Arabia kind of wins as a result of this because of the land bridge operation that they're continuing to seek to create that solves the trade problem with Pakistan and solves the trade problem with India and solves the trade problem that comes across over the Sinai that goes, or actually through the Sinai and over the area of the Suez Canal, which of course creates a lot of rest and peace for Egypt, because Egypt gets subsidized with a total that is far greater than the subsidization that they would get from operating the Suez Canal, which brings them into a good situation. And of course, Libya could stand to benefit as a result of it, especially if Russia wins in the civil war of Libya, because now you have the security of the southern Mediterranean that's actually being brought under scope. And the reality of that is it could shape very quickly, especially when you start looking at the function of Mauritania or Algeria or any of the other countries that are there. And then when you look at Western Sahara and what's going on below Morocco and how that ends up dealing with Spain, and we start talking about the traders of Tarshish, all of this stuff that we're talking about here can contribute to the exact theory that you're talking about when it comes to the idea of a ground force being part of Ezekiel 38. And I believe it will happen right after we're raptured, or might start brewing up at the time that we do get raptured. But this all could make sense. Like, I think you're right, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. That was fascinating, the way that you just laid all of that out. And by the way, I do believe personally it's going to happen after the rapture. But it's like different things in the Bible. When you look at them, people are, James, you and I have been asked this, what, 1,000,000 times in the last 4 years, or been told this. Well, we're in the tribulation. No, we are not in the tribulation. Or this is the mark of the beast, whatever the mark of the beast is, whatever they claim it is at that time. We know over the last 4 years what people are saying. No, you can't have a mark of the beast without the beast. You can't have the mark of the beast without also an official false prophet. Those two have to be official. And you can't have the beast without first a 10-king system, whether it be 10-king system out of Europe like you proposed, or like I have globally, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we don't have those. None of those are official yet. And in the same sense, we are definitely watching the geopolitical alliances taking place and forming. And we know Babylon has to be rebuilt. It will be rebuilt. You and I are so like-minded on that. Have so many people want to argue with us on that. No, the Bible's very clear. The problem started in Babel back at the time of Nimrod. Nimrod was a type of Antichrist. You follow that right on through. Well, where was Babylon? It was where the area of the Tower of Babel was. So you have Babylon. God repeatedly says, I am going to deal with Babylon. I have two cities in the last days I'm going to raise up, Jerusalem and Babylon. And guess what? I am going to destroy Babylon in the great judgment. It is a great judgment that God is doing, not something from the past, although Babylon has had some destruction from the past. But no, he's talking about something still coming in the future. So we are watching all of these dynamics take place. The alliance of the Ezekiel 38 nations, which you just brilliantly laid out, and also the building of Babylon, that Iran being involved in it, just incredible. But boy, can you see Saudi Arabia saying, oh yeah, we want to be a part of that. Egypt, absolutely. Look at all the Suez Canal Balagan stuff going on. And the Suez Canal Balagan didn't just start because of October 7. Remember that ship a couple years back that was sideways and stuck in there? What a mess. So Suez Canal is an easy target to cause major shipping problems for the entire Western world. You start looking at this going into Europe or wherever. You start looking at these things, you go, okay, everything is lining up, but we are not yet in the tribulation. But all of these things should have any thinking mind going, hey, what in the world is going on? And then what do? You search the scriptures, just like Daniel the prophet, the Hebrew prophet was told by the angel, hey, they'll search to and fro, or they'll be able to travel to and fro through the scriptures. The biblical knowledge of the days we are living will increase. And friends, that is what is happening. God is letting us know these things now, so we will be awakened, not woke, two opposites. that we would be awakened to what is going on. It's like God is shouting at the world right now. Pay attention. Pay attention.
100%.
Jesus is coming.
Amen. And bro, I'm going to tell you this on the heels of Erdogan making a historic visit to Iraq, not Iran, Iraq, right? It's a major story. Matter of fact, this Friday, I'm releasing a video where I'm talking about it, the significance of it, and what that all means. And you're right, 100%. We are seeing all of this begin to materialize in front of us. And the thing about all of this is when you stop for a moment to think about how it actually works and the pieces involved. Like you take Babylon, for example. By the way, little side note on Babylon. This is kind of interesting, right? Andy Woods calls me a few weeks ago, and he says, I'm in town because I'm visiting my dad, and I want to come to your church service, and maybe hang out with you for a while. I'm like, yeah, great, Andy, come on. That's great. So I hang up the phone, and I'm like literally, oh, poo-poo, right? Because Andy is going to sit down while I'm teaching through Revelation 18, because I'm going through Revelation right now.
Oh, that's funny.
So the actual subject matter expert on the topic of Babylon, the smartest guy on the subject, is going to sit down and watch me do a Bible study on it. I mean, thank God that me and Andy see a lot of that eye to eye, right? But it was a bit of it was kind of intimidating being that. But, with the Babylon thing, like you're right. Look, Revelation 17 and Revelation 18 talk about one city, right? When you look at the end of Revelation 17 in verse 18, it says, the woman is Babylon, that great city. Okay, it says it to us. It's not even a question. So Revelation 17 is not spiritual Babylon. Revelation is the spiritual component of the city of Babylon. Revelation 17. Revelation 18 is undoubtedly the commercial component of the city of Babylon. They're the same city, same situation. There's no divide between the two chapters. And oftentimes things get conflated and confused. When you understand that Babylon is Babylon, then you're able to put things together so much more significantly. By the way, Revelation 19 is a lot easier to understand if you look at Revelation 17 and 18 that way, especially after the deployment of the term metatauta at the very beginning of Revelation 19. You'll really begin to understand why it is what it is. And I think that what is really important about this observation that you made concerning Babylon, and I think it's really critical, right, is in Genesis chapter 11, which I say this to everybody, you will never understand Revelation unless you know the Old Testament. You won't. You just won't, right? So when we hit up Revelation 17 for the first time, I sat down and I gave people an extensive summary. They both sound contradictory. An extensive summary on the subject of Nimrod and the Tower of Babel and the city of Babel. Because if you don't know where Babylon came from, and if you don't understand the mechanism that was trying to be deployed in Babel and what they were trying to do, you will never understand what the modern day Babylon is actually going to become. When they were building that tower, their whole purpose of building that tower was to avoid judgment or to become immune of God's judgment. They built that tower so they could free themselves clearly of any potential flood, destruction, or anything else. That's why they built that tower. And God did not call them ridiculous for trying to do it. Matter of fact, God didn't even say they were crazy. God said they all speak with one language, and there's nothing that they have in their mind that they are incapable of doing because they speak that language. So what does he do? He breaks up the languages. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting. Mankind today is capable of speaking the same language everywhere we go. We use AI to do it. I can speak to somebody that doesn't speak a lick of any languages I speak and speak to them as functionally as I'm talking to you right now, utilizing artificial intelligence. So do you think there's a second that God is not going to stop mankind at the point that we're at? It's coming. He is going to accept. He's not going to have the grace that he showed to mankind when he split up the languages at the Tower of Babel. What he's going to do is he's going to just destroy mankind. He's going to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's inevitable. It's coming.
Yeah. If you look at Genesis chapter 11 and get a good understanding of what was going on with Babel, today makes a lot more sense. Some of the very thing, Genesis chapter 11, verse 6, which you quoted, there's nothing that man will set his mind to do that he won't be able to accomplish. Well, this is what the Yuval Noah Hararis are saying, the people in Silicon Valley. They are saying, hey, guess what? We're going to be able to do anything. And they go back to the original lie of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Did God really say that, Eve? No. He knows that the day you eat of the fruit of that tree, that you won't surely die, but you'll be like God. This is the lie that's being told to people. You won't die. You will be like God. We can accomplish anything. And James, I firmly believe that the technology of mankind is on that edge again, as it was in the days of Nimrod, right on the
100%.
edge of that, which leads me to believe we're almost there. And also, what people don't understand now is the technology that was available at the Tower of Babel was far superior to what our minds
Oh,
conceive here in the
oh,
21st
yeah,
century.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, I mean, even when you start looking at the ancient pyramids that God didn't destroy, right? They don't function like they used to. There's still technology today that doesn't understand some of those things.
Oh, yeah.
What the things that they were able to do with the sundials and different dynamics and the spiritual darkness that was involved in the pyramids. But listen, if they built that, Nimrod, what he was instructing his people to do was far superior. And what the promise of Nimrod was listen, I will keep you in a place of security. I will
Yep.
keep you in a place of safety. We got to
Yep.
stay here as one, which was against God's command to go out and be fruitful and multiply. No, I'll be your protector. It was a global mindset. We must keep everybody here. I will be your God. And if God of heaven, the God of my great grandfather Noah wants to judge us again, guess what? I'll protect you from judgment. James, this is the same thing we're being told today. Hence the reason why I believe and you believe, listen, that tower, that this Babylon will be rebuilt in its place because the wickedness that was there. I don't believe it's America. You can find similarities between America and what both Isaiah and Jeremiah say, but when ultimately it's going to happen. And people ask me all the time. I know you get hit up with the same questions. Well, how is that even possible to build a city like Babylon in such a short time? Listen, look at the bill. I remember when you played that clip from King, then Prince Charles, with trillions at his disposal. In warlike manner, we must tackle these. Right. I remember the first time you played that when I was on with you. That was great. So listen, if the world is willing to, the UN, we're going to be paying taxes out our noses to the UN real soon. We already are, but it's going to get a lot worse. The trillions that are going to pour into Babylon after the rapture, they'll be able to, there's going to be no red tape for any building. The trillions are going to be there. They'll be able to build that thing like that. And by the time you get to Revelation 18, it doesn't have to be completed. It just has to function in the industrial sense to be this great commercial center of the world. They would have already dealt with the religious aspect because the kings deal with that in chapter 17. They use that whole dynamic to get their power, and then God destroys the kings themselves in chapter 18 in this final destruction. So we see this dynamic taking place, and listen, you go back to the book of Genesis, and this stuff that's happening now, including the Silicon Valley and everything you said about building Babylon, it all comes together.
Yep, 100%. And the summary that God gives us is sleep with a whore and you die. And that's exactly what they do. They end up, the religion of the world, or the one world religion that will exist, will do exactly that. It will literally cheat on Almighty God, and it will do it for a price. And the whole idea is when they do it, they will become comfortable with the idea, with the thought that doing so will give them a better life, will cause them to have more abundance than they ever thought possible, will cause them to bypass God. Remember, when we talk about the word antichrist, anti does not mean against. Anti means instead of. So the idea here is we are going to remove our collective consciousness of Christ by replacing him in our minds and our hearts. And that's how you do it. You don't just go up to people and say, hey, get rid of God. He doesn't. No, most people won't do that. But they will say the new God is what's in front of me right now because that's all that matters. I'm living in the moment. We are breeding a culture that wants to live in the moment right now. That's why these kids are so coked up on video games. That's why all this stuff with the crazy binge watching addictions that people have to this and that and here and there, all the entertainment that's going on, all the craziness, all the lies, it all goes back to this very simple Tower of Babel mindset. This is the Babylonian culture that is already formulating in the minds and the hearts of so many people around the world. That's exactly what's going on. And by the way, if the world is getting to the point where we can brainwash kids into saying from the river to the sea, eliminate a whole race of people while not even knowing the name of the river or the dang sea, then we can actually bring the culture that we're bringing in right now easily. It's easy. All you have to do is tell a lie long enough and the people will believe it. And actually, in this case, you don't even need to tell the lie long enough. All you need to do is simply tell the lie. And you know what they'll do? They'll buy it. Hook, line, and sinker. They'll give themselves to it. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now with these kids. They're literally buying it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. The wokeism, it's been purposeful. When we look at it, anybody with a brain knows a man can't be a woman can't be a man, and all the other insane stuff that's happening. So now it's been generations of people have been dumbed down in American schools to the place where you see this anti-Semitism that's taking place on college campuses. The most prestigious colleges in the world are idiots. They're idiots. But this is more evidence of chapter 17 of Revelation, because the kings and the Antichrist, they do away with this system. Why? Because the people at the top know the whole thing's a lie. They know this system is a whore system. They know it's a prostitute system. What happens when the John is done with the prostitute? He does away with her, right? It's exactly. That's exactly what this is. They know that this whole thing is fake. Listen, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, these people, Klaus Schwab, they know a man can't change into a woman, but they tell you this happens. They tell you it's better to eat bugs. They tell you kill all the Jews. They tell you these things, even though they know all of the stuff is just absolute insanity, but they mass manipulated people. And we really saw it begin 4 years ago, where it was proven how many people will do anything the government tells them to do for the exact reason that you just said, James. Guess what? Life's going to be better for you. You're going to have good money. You're going to have a nice place to live. All of these things if you go along with that system, but they will do away this system because the people at the top, the elite, know the whole thing is a lie.
So it's complete true, bro. And it's a very crazy way to end this broadcast, but we're out of time, and you're right. And it shouldn't surprise us. It's something that we should expect to see. We know how this world is going to end. We know how it's going to get there. The lies and the deception are increasing, and this is exactly what we're seeing. And it's amazing how God can use such a significant event that can happen like immediately. Like we woke up this morning, Sunday morning, and everything was, the status quo. And then we get news about Raisi, and then we get news about all the different things that we're seeing. Look, overnight, things can change, right? And that's the thing that's so difficult for people to understand in the world in which we live. And I got to say, the audience that watches us, they get it. Like they know, because they've been around long enough. They've been taught well. Like they understand it. But the world in general, they don't look at it this way, bro. They don't. They're generally ignorant of these facts. And I got to tell you, bro, it's unbelievable. I'm going to give you the last words, bro. We only have a few minutes left. I'll give you the last words, and then we'll wrap it up.
That's Daniel chapter 12, isn't it? The angel tells to Daniel, in the last days, Daniel, in that day, the wicked will see it and will not understand. But the wise, they'll see it and they will understand. That's exactly what you just described with the world doesn't get it. How can you not see these things? Yeah, but they can't. And God says that's exactly how it would be. More evidence that the Bible is true and that everything is happening just the way the Bible told us it was going to happen.
Yeah. Amen. Amen, bro. Great final words. I got to tell you, on behalf of Tom Hughes, this is James Kaddis. I want to thank you so much for listening to us on the radio or in your living rooms, watching us on YouTube. We hope and sincerely hope that you have enjoyed watching this or listening to it as much as we've enjoyed making it. We love you guys. May God richly bless you as we wait, counting down to eternity. We know Christ could come at any second. God bless you guys. We love you.